Revealed, the sinister secrets of Homo erectus' terrifying survival day 1.9 million years ago. The night was thick with terror. In the heart of crumbling Chicago, shadows flickered like dying sparks as Lisa stumbled towards home after her grueling shift. Each step crackled with the weight of her exhaustion, but nothing could prepare her for what awaited. Her front door ajar, a gaping wound against the backdrop of night. Lisa's heart plummeted, her breath quickening into panicked bursts. The air felt electric, saturated with dread as she edged closer to the breach. She peered inside, knowing instinctively something was wrong. Furniture lay scattered like debris from a shipwreck, their disarray an unsettling welcome. Silence hung heavy, only to be punctured by the soft whisper of the wind through cracks in the walls. "Jake?" she called, but her voice trembled, swallowed by the dark. The house felt alive, breathing chaos and fear, an echo of something monstrous lurking in the corners. With every hesitant step, memories inundated her like a tide, her son's laughter, the warmth of home, all swallowed by a creeping desolation. Outside, her neighbors flickered like shadows. Familiar faces peered through drawn curtains, their eyes brimming with unease, their backs stiff with suspicion. It felt like they were sharing a dark secret, one that Lisa wasn't privy to. She moved closer, catching snippets of hushed conversations, glances darting like frightened animals. Something unholy stirred beneath their placid surface, and Lisa felt it claw at her. Meanwhile, Jake, oblivious to his mother's panic, spiraled into the chilling depths of urban legends. "Mom, listen," he declared one evening, excitement lacing his voice. He spoke of Homo erectus and survival tactics that echoed through the ages. His mind was a whirlwind of folklore and fear, spinning tales of brutal rituals and forgotten tribes. Lisa's heart sank. "Maybe we should focus on the present, honey," she urged weakly, her spirit dampened by his obsession. But in his eyes, she saw a storm brewing of frustration, a yearning, and perhaps a fear that mirrored her own. Weeks passed, and then the unmarked van arrived. It prowled their street, an ominous specter washing over the neighborhood. Parents whispered, eyes darting at every creak or knock. When kids started to go missing, Lisa's anxiety transformed into blind terror. Each call for help was met with vacant stares from authorities who dismissed her concerns. Paranoia clawed at her sanity, wrapping her in a choking embrace of dread. Could this all be linked to what Jake was discovering? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One fateful evening, driven by unyielding urgency, Lisa confronted a neighbor she had once trusted. The conversation unfolded like a spider's web, revealing darker threads of their community's past, secret societies that thrived in shadows, rituals tied to that primal fear of survival. Lisa's pulse raced, and as she pieced pieces together, horror clawed at her heart. Was all of this real? Suddenly, a knock shattered the fragile calm, disrupting her racing thoughts. It was after midnight. Her skin prickled with foreboding. She glanced around the familiar silhouettes outside, lingering too long, doubt plating every ounce of trust she had left. "Mom, don't open it." Jake's voice echoed from behind her, urgency painting his tone. "I think I found out what happened to the missing kids." An icy chill trickled down her spine. In that haunting moment, Lisa realized the monsters weren't hiding. They were out there in plain sight, wrapped in familiar faces. What had she unwittingly unleashed? The knock echoed like a death knell, reverberating through the hollow shell of Lisa's home. Her breath hitched, caught somewhere between disbelief and pure fear. Outside, figures stood half-lit by the flickering streetlight, their faces masked in shadow and secrecy. Jake's warning hung thick in the air, but curiosity lured her closer. What did he find? "Mom, please," Jake pleaded, his voice strained, a desperate whisper tangled with terror. The urgency in his tone sliced through her resolve. "We can't trust them." A bead of cold sweat trickled down Lisa's back. She felt the weight of the door pressing against her fingers, urging her to keep it closed and protect what little was left of her world. But something twisted inside her, making every second feel like a lifetime. She forced the door to a crack, just enough to peer outside. The street was surreal, caught in the balance of dread and darkness. Yet she recognized the silhouette of neighbor, Jim, who always waved cheerily. But tonight, his familiar smile was gone. His eyes, hollow and haunted, spoke of primal fear. "Lisa," he rasped, urgency twisting his features. "You need to come with me now. There is no time." She hesitated, the pulse in her neck throbbing wildly. "What is going on?" The question came out in a rush, anxiety tight in her chest. "Not here," he hissed, glancing over his shoulder, sweat glistening on his brow. "They're watching. It's not safe. We have to find the kids. The truth will destroy them if we don't." With hesitation unspooling in her gut, Lisa glanced back at Jake. His eyes were wide, laden with an understanding far beyond his years. "Mom, don't you see?" He asked one of them. His voice trembled as the fear nearly overtook him. "Lisa, we don't have time," Jim insisted, pushing against the door, his face close enough that she could see the rawness of his panic. With a surge of instinct, she opened the door wider. "What do you mean the truth?" she demanded, her voice shaking, but determination coursing through her. "Follow me," Jim urged, darting down the street, half glancing backward as if expecting something horrific to leap from the shadows. Lisa felt a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. But the missing kids haunted her thoughts like ghosts, every one of their faces stealing a piece of her resolve. "Jake, stay close." She stepped into the night, heart pounding in time with each footfall, the streetlights casting eerie shadows that danced in mockery of her fear as they moved deeper into the neighborhood. The silence was almost palpable. They passed the homes of friends turned strangers, doors tight shut, curtains drawn. It felt like they were slipping through the veil of a nightmare, where every familiar face became an unfamiliar threat. "Are you sure we can trust him?" Jake questioned, his voice a mere whisper, a child grappling with an adult's horror. "Right now, we don't have a choice," Lisa replied, her voice steady but the tremor in her hands betrayed her. They turned down a dark alley, the asphalt cold and slick beneath her feet. A low chant drifted through the walls, a sound that rooted itself deep within her, sending chills down her spine. In the depths of her mind, she remembered Jake's fascination with the ancient tribes, the darker tales he had whispered, one soaked in primal rituals and survival. "I found something," Jake murmured, and Lisa noticed his hands trembled as if carrying a weight she couldn't see. "If we're going to get them back, we have to face whatever is out here." The chant grew louder, mingling with the pulsating dread that enveloped them. They approached a flicker of light from an abandoned warehouse, grim and inviting at once, the source of the sounds they had become ensnared in. "Just a little further," Jim breathed. As they reached the doorway, Lisa felt a predatory gaze land on her from the shadows, a flicker of movement that froze her in place. The moment hung heavy, a storm brewing in the air, thick with impending violence. Here, with the unknown pounding at the door, she realized they were stepping into something far greater and more dangerous than she ever could have imagined. What had Jake uncovered, and how deep did the darkness run? The air crackled with ominous anticipation, and in a world twisted by fear and desperation, a primal truth awaited. Would they step into the light, or plunge deeper into the abyss? The flickering light from the warehouse danced erratically, teasing shadows that seemed to lick the ground like hungry flames. Lisa hesitated at the threshold, the weight of uncertainty pressing down like a lead shroud. "What is this place?" she whispered, casting a fearful glance at Jim and then back to Jake, who clutched his arm as if to shield his own fear. "Close your eyes, Lisa," Jim urged, his voice trembling. "Just trust me. Don't let them see you." She felt Jake tighten his grip on her hand. Together, they stepped inside, the door creaking ominously behind them. The air inside was stale, thick with dust, and something acrid that burned her nose. The faint glow illuminated the faces of warped images pinned to the walls, sketches and photographs that captured anguished expressions and scenes of despair. It was a gallery of horror, a collection of lost hope. "Why would anyone do this?" Jake murmured, his voice barely audible. "Because they believe," Jim answered, his eyes scanning the vast emptiness around them. They believe in the truth. It's not just about the kids, it's much worse. Before Lisa could ask what he meant, the ground trembled beneath them, a low rumble echoing like a far-off thunderclap that sent her heart racing. What was that? She gasped, instinctively stepping closer to Jake. Stay together. Jim huddled closer, eyes darting. We need to find the others before it's too late. The chanting grew louder, now discernible, words slipping through the air like venomous tendrils. It twisted through the rusting beams overhead and coiled around her throat, suffocating her with dread. Surrender, surrender, the voices sang, a sickening melody that wormed its way into her mind. Lisa, torn between instinct and resolve, propelled deeper into the darkness. What do you want from us? She shouted, a spark of defiance igniting her fear. But the shadows responded only with silence, deep and unnerving. In the center of the warehouse, they stumbled upon a circle drawn on the concrete floor, marked with unusual symbols that felt ancient and wrong. At its center, a crude altar made of scrap metal loomed, glistening as if smeared with something dark blood. The sight made her stomach churn. They stepped closer. A voice, deeper than the others, resonated from the shadows. You shouldn't have come here. A figure materialized, cloaked in layers of tattered cloth, face hidden in darkness. A low chuckle escaped, reverberating through the air, chilling Lisa to her bones. The truth is waiting. The children have been delivered, but can you handle what lies ahead? What truth? Lisa demanded, trying to sound fearless as the reality sunk in. You'll find out soon enough, it rasped. Dread bubbled in Lisa's throat as she glanced at Jake. His face was pale, eyes wide, mirroring the terror thrumming through their veins. An explosion of noise erupted, the cacophony of whispers rising to a crescendo, a tumult of haunting lullabies that chased sanity's borders. It blinded her to the horror unfurling in front of them. What is happening? She yelled, but the chanting drowned her out, washing over them in waves. Suddenly, all the lights went out, plunging them into darkness. The air thickened. Each breath felt like a betrayal. Shadows swarmed, twisting into grotesque shapes, inching closer. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest, a primal fear cutting through her resolve. From the void came fragments of laughter, echoing with sinister delight. Who will be left to face the truth? The voice teased. And with that, the darkness swallowed them whole. The malevolent echo faded. A flicker returned, a match striking against the silence, illuminating the barest hint of something moving in the shadows. What emerged from that darkness would change everything. Would they manage to unearth the truth, or would it consume them all? A chilling wind swept through the warehouse, carrying with it the suffocating scent of fear and desperation. Shadows wriggled and writhed, elongating under the faint glow of the match that flickered in the heavy darkness. Lisa squinted, her heart racing as her eyes adjusted to the dim light, praying it would reveal a way out. But instead, it revealed the horrors set loose within those walls. Just beyond the reach of the flickering flame, pale figures moved like specters, their faces as twisted as the sketches on the walls. They chanted in unison, their words forming a grotesque harmony that vibrated in her bones. Join us, be one of us. The haunting invitation twisted in her stomach, igniting an instinctual urge to flee. But where? The match sputtered against the growing darkness, mere moments away from extinguishing. Lisa's breath quickened, her lungs tight and raw. I can't breathe. Jake gasped, his terror palpable. Hold on, Jim yelled, eyes wide with panic as he yanked Lisa and Jake close, trying to shield them from the encroaching crowd. I can't see, Jake cried, voice thick with tears. I don't want to be here. Keep it together. Jim's voice cracked under the weight of urgency, but they were drowning in chaos. With one last flicker, the match died out, swallowing them once again into an abyss of terror that stretched endlessly around them. It was a dark void, wrapping tight around their sanity, thick with malevolent whispers. Lisa could hear them now, her name echoed back to her, distorted, laced with mockery. They know me, they see me. Find a way out. Lisa shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. This way? She stumbled blindly, her hands outstretched, feeling the gritty wall. Out of nowhere, a scream pierced the darkness, sharp, high-pitched, and filled with pure agony. It curled around them like an icy grip, leaving a residue of dread as they realized they weren't alone. The sound came from somewhere deep within the recesses of the warehouse, a signal of suffering that froze them in place. "Is someone else here?" Jim whispered, his voice trembling. Before Lisa could respond, a rustling crescendo of movements lurched toward them, brushing past like whispers of death. They recoiled, indescribable dread rooting them to the spot. An electrifying pulse surged through Lisa, while shadows prickled across her skin like 1,000 tiny needles. "Turn back!" A voice shrieked, frenzied with fear and panic. "It's all a trap." Suddenly a pale hand shot out from the shadows, grasping for Lisa's arm, its chilling touch icy against her skin. She screamed, jerking away, and stumbled backward, colliding into Jake, who reeled in shock. Jim pushed forward, the protective friend taking charge. "Get back! Get away from her!" In the chaos, Lisa caught glimpses of the figures, faces contorted in agony, mouths stretched in silent screams, eyes wide with horror. They looked familiar, disturbingly, so their dull eyes were those of missing posters she had seen during her childhood. The eerie realization crashed over her. These souls were once children just like the ones in the photographs they had seen earlier. "Join us," they pleaded, their voices merging into a haunting crescendo. "No," Lisa screamed, heart pounding as shadows danced closer, clawing at her resolve. Every whispered chant cut deeper, a dagger to her very being. As she looked into the depths of the shadows, the floor quaked violently beneath her, as if it responded to the chaos unfurling. Cracks appeared in the concrete, oozing a thick, black substance, a dark reminder of something ancient and malevolent. She turned, searching desperately for an escape, while her heart throbbed with impending doom. In the surging darkness, a solitary figure emerged, stepping into the flickering light. Tall and daunting, it held a glimmering object in its palm. "Do you still seek the truth?" It croaked, voice dripping with malice. Before Lisa could shout back her defiance, tendrils of darkness curled around them, constricting tightly, slowly squeezing. Would they fight to uncover the horrors of their reality? Or would the darkness snuff out their existence forever? The pressure tightened, suffocating them, wrapping around their throats like a vice. Lisa's legs trembled, muscles screaming for her to run, but terror held her still. The figure loomed closer, the light glinting off the object. It brandished a jagged piece of glass that caught the dim glow, like sharpened teeth ready to bite. "Join us," echoed the voices again, sharp and crazed, a chorus of despair that reverberated everywhere at once. "No," Lisa shrieked, adrenaline surging through her. She fought against the grips of darkness, searching for an escape in the claustrophobic nightmare closing in around them. Jake's whimpers clawed at her heart. "Lisa, I can't hold on." He was trembling, a small fragile bird caught in a tempest. "We will not become one of you," Jim shouted defiantly, pushing against the shadows. He heaved, planted his feet, and tugged Lisa back. His muscles strained against the pull of the darkness, but it felt like fighting against a tidal wave. The figure took another step forward, and the ground quaked, sending another rippling crack through the concrete floor. Lisa stumbled, caught off balance, but Jim caught her just in time. The figure spoke again, voice slithering through the air, malevolent and cold. "You do not have the will. You will join us." Suddenly the shadows split, parting like curtains in a theater to reveal a passage, a streak of gray light. Was it a lifeline or another trap? Without waiting for an answer, Jim seized Lisa's hand and jerked her forward. "Run." They broke into a sprint, hearts pounding, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the damp walls. Behind them, the chanting intensified, a cacophony of rage and sorrow. "Join us! Join us!" The phrase echoed in their ears, its insistence a siren's call, promising solace in an abyss. Lisa glanced back, desperation clawing at her. The figure stood at the edge of the darkness, its pale face twisting into an angry snarl. It raised the shard of glass, and suddenly, a visage pushed forward from the shadows, a child, fear etched into its features, reaching out with a tiny hand. "Help me, no!" Lisa shouted, recoiling. She wanted to scream, to cry, but fear took her breath. Was this what awaited her? To be consumed? She turned, focusing on the fleeing beam of light, and pushed herself harder. They barreled down the passage, darkness nipping at their heels. The flickering light cast distorted shadows that danced around them, alive and hungry. Jim stumbled, grabbing hold of the damp wall to steady himself. Keep going, just a little further, he urged, panting. Suddenly, the light flickered violently, as if responding to some unseen force. Lisa's heart dropped. The warehouse roared back to life, screaming in agony. The shadows stretched and contorted, reaching out like desperate hands. She felt a grip around her ankle, pulling her back. Help! Jake wailed, but the darkness stirred with a sinister hunger, dragging him toward the cold ground, toward the pleading faces that haunted Lisa's every thought. With a fearful cry, Lisa lunged back toward Jake, grabbing his wrist with both hands. I want to let go. Together they fought against the shadows, and for a heart-stopping moment, she felt them loosen their hold. Hope ignited within her, flickering just like the dying light. Push through, Jim shouted, pulling them both as they stumbled into the glimmer of light, deeper into the unknown. But the darkness surged, an angry tidal wave of despair crashing against their backs, clawing at them. Then came a voice, a whisper laced with deceit. You cannot hide from the truth. Terror clawed at Lisa's throat, and as they burst into the light, the world shifted again, solidifying into a new chamber. The air was thin, charged with electric tension, and around them, the walls seemed to breathe. As they gasped in horror, Lisa sensed that the presence had followed them, and something worse loomed ahead. Shadows pooled around the edges of the room, turning the space into a living nightmare. What waited for them here in this unnerving place? Would they uncover the truths buried deep within the terror, or would they succumb to the silence of the lost souls that haunted the whispers? The silence in the new chamber wrapped around them like a heavy blanket, thick with dread. Shadows writhed at the corners, waiting. Lisa's heart thudded viciously in her chest, the echoing sound swallowing her sense of rationality. She pulled Jake close, her eyes scanning their surroundings while Jim stood stiff, almost immobile, as if frozen in the grip of fear. What now? Jake's voice quaked, a mixture of fear and panic. Lisa felt his hand tremble in hers, each pulse sending a ripple of terror through her. I don't know, she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The light flickered once more, illuminating the grotesque scenery surrounding them. Walls lined with unsettling images, eyes staring wide open, mouths agape, and silent screams threatened to draw them deeper into an insatiable abyss. Stay together, Jim said, the command firm yet laced with uncertainty. He stepped forward, inching toward the heart of the room, where the light seemed to pulsate like a heartbeat. It beckoned them. The whispers hung in the air, growing fainter yet more urgent at the same time. You cannot escape. They exchanged glances, the wordless exchange heavy with understanding. Staying together was the only chance they had. But what would they face if they approached the source of the light? Lisa swallowed hard, anger sparking a fire within her. We're going to find out, she said fiercely, pulling Jake along. As they moved, the temperature plummeted. Each breath became a visible puff of dread, chilling them to the core. The ground beneath them shifted, squidging like wet clay. Lisa stumbled but pushed through, determination hardening her resolve. With every step, the shadows crept closer, and the images on the walls twisted into something more grotesque, reflecting the pain she felt inside. She could hear the cries of countless lost souls echoing within those walls. Liberty or death, whispered her own mind, a haunting mantra. Abruptly, the flickering light exploded into a blinding blaze. They shielded their eyes, disoriented by the sudden brilliance. Lisa felt a tug at her ankle again, stronger this time. The shadows were alive, surging forward as if they were creatures bent on claiming their prey. Run, Jim shouted, pulling Lisa and Jake with him, darting toward the epicenter of light. But as they dashed forward, the images on the walls began to morph into faces. Familiar faces. Suddenly they were surrounded by apparitions of friends, family, those they had lost, faces blurring into a kaleidoscope of memories. Join us, they cried, their voices layered in a choir of longing, pleading with insufferable anguish. No, Lisa screamed, shaking her head violently. Not like this. Each step felt heavier, the sorrow of the phantoms threatening to drown her in despair. Jake's grip slipped, and for a fleeting moment, panic flashed through her. She turned just in time to see the shadows coalesce into a dark hand reaching out to him, cold and relentless. "Jake!" she shouted, lunging forward. But he screamed, the sound fracturing the silence like glass shattering. In a heartbeat, the chamber shifted again. The walls spiraled inward, and the floor twisted. They were yanked from one nightmare to another. Lisa clutched her head, feeling dizzy, everything crashing down around them. Laughter filled the air, rich with malice. "You thought you could escape? The truth is a circle, and all paths lead back." What truth? What were they meant to find? Confusion churned in Lisa's mind as desperation clawed at her insides. They had no choice but to push farther into the light, into the unknown, even as it threatened to consume them whole. A sudden silence enveloped them as they stepped through the threshold, plunging into an expanse of white. Everything vanished: shadows, voices, faces all gone, leaving them suspended in nothingness. What just happened? Jake's voice was faint, a reflection of the fear kicking in. Lisa surveyed the bleakness, a sinking feeling settling in her stomach. "I don't know, but we can't stay here." And just when they were ready to turn back, a thunderous roar blasted through the void, shaking them to the core. A new presence emerged, something larger, more ancient. They were not alone. "Welcome back," it rumbled, deep and echoing, reverberating in their bones. The chase had only just begun. The words hung in the air, a ghastly echo. Lisa's heart raced, each beat now a drumroll of impending doom. What had they stumbled into? The whiteness around them pulsed, a living thing, almost breathing. The roar morphed into a cacophony of whispers, some soft and alluring, others harsh and demanding. They were being watched. "Jake, can you see anything?" Lisa murmured, trying to pierce through the blinding brightness. But the world remained a blank canvas, devoid of shape or form. Just light," Jake stammered, his voice trembling. The panic was palpable in the way he clutched her hand tighter, knuckles turning white. "Jim," she called, her voice slicing through the whispering void. Where was he? Fear tightened in her throat. She turned, straining to glimpse the coiled darkness creeping at the edges of the light. Had they lost him again? "Right here." Jim's voice came from somewhere behind her. She swiveled around, relief flooding her veins for just a moment. "What the hell is happening?" "No idea," she said, her breath hitching. "But we need to stick together. We're not safe." The whispers escalated, mixing into a frenzy that clawed at the edges of her mind, becoming an unbearable buzz. She shut her eyes, pressing her palms to her ears, but it did nothing to silence the overwhelming noise. "We need to move," she shouted against the chaos. Her voice swallowed hold in an instant. The whiteness dimmed, and muted shadows crept back into focus. They were no longer in a void but a vast expanse filled with silhouettes shifting in the distance. Grasping the moment, Lisa pulled Jake along, her resolve hardening. "Take a step back," Jim urged from her side, his voice panicked now. "It's not just shadows, it's something else." "Shut up," she snapped, instinct driving her forward. She wouldn't let them get swallowed by the rising tide of despair. Shadows coiled like snakes, whispering promises of safety, of rest. They could almost feel it, everything she ever wanted, fighting for their attention. "Keep moving." But as they treaded onward, the ground beneath them rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Lisa glanced down, her stomach churning at the sight of a seamless, dark surface swaying beneath their feet. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shuddering shadows, towering with an unsettling presence. It loomed above them, its shape indistinct but its power palpable. "You will face the reckoning," it growled, a sound so deep it vibrated through their bones. "Back!" Jim cried, wrenching Lisa and Jake to the side. But the figure didn't move. It held its ground, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "Do you see what you've become?" It continued, the shadows around it swirling with intent. "You carry the burden of secrets untold. This is your path. Will you dare to unravel it?" Lisa's pulse raced. Burden? Secrets? What did it mean? She pulled Jake closer as dread settled in her gut. "No, we're not listening to whatever this is." But as she turned to flee, the shadows lunged forward, solidifying into human forms, desperate faces that once were familiar but now twisted with agony. "You left us. You can't escape your choices," they screamed, their voices melding into an anguished chorus. "Forget me." Lisa thought, but the words didn't reach her lips. Instead, she was frozen, the reality crashing in harder than ever. It was not just her life that was in danger, every decision echoed cruelly, linking them to those they had lost. "Help!" Jake cried, eyes wide with fear, and in that moment, time hung suspended. The thunderous crack filled the air, bringing Lisa back. The dark figure was gone, but the shadows pressed in closer, their screams intensifying. They were no longer just hallucinations. They were here, real and demanding. "Run!" Jim shouted, grabbing Lisa's arm. They took off, hearts pounding, breaths racing, dashing toward an uncertain fate. The light flickered ominously behind them, mocking their escape, urging them to confront their pasts. But as they fled, the ground began to ripple violently, threatening to swallow them whole. "What if it's all connected?" Lisa gasped, trying to keep her thoughts straight. "What if we can't escape whatever this is?" The roiling shadows surged, an insatiable maw yearning to consume them. "You cannot escape," it echoed again, this time more menacing, as the walls around them began to close in. With the world collapsing around them, the flickering light illuminated a doorway ahead, a glimpse of hope amidst despair. "Together!" she yelled as they hurtled toward it, desperation igniting. But as they neared, the realization dawned what lay on the other side could be far worse than staying. "What are we doing?" Jake shouted, hesitating as the shadows lunged toward them one last time. It was a choice now, leap into the unknown or face the demons of their past. And who knew what awaited them on the other side? The moment they crossed the threshold, a chilling silence enveloped them. The door slammed shut behind them, sealing off the chaotic shadows and their haunting wails. For a heartbeat, relief washed over Lisa, but it was fleeting, like a candle flickering in a storm. They stood in a dimly lit room, stark and sterile. The walls were gray, smooth, and unyielding, almost as if they were made of carved stone. The air felt heavy, thick with dread. Lisa looked around, but there were no familiar faces, only austere furnishings and ominous shadows that seemed to shift with every passing moment. "Where are we?" Jake whispered, his voice trembling as he strained to pinpoint any sound beyond their shallow breaths. "This place," Jim began, his voice losing its previous sharpness, replaced by the low murmur of uncertainty. "It's like a holding cell. But for what?" Before any of them could answer, the light above them flickered harshly, revealing faded photographs plastered on the walls. Images of people, faces twisted in anguish, mouths open in silent screams. It felt like they were staring back at them, eyes wide with terror, shrouded in memories that sliced through the inky darkness surrounding them. "We shouldn't stay here," Lisa urged, taking a step back, but her feet felt rooted. It was almost as if the room itself held her captive, licking at her heels with invisible tendrils of despair. Jim moved closer to one of the photos, squinting. "These they look like the people, the ones we left behind." His voice broke, the realization hitting hard. "They're just like us." The walls suddenly resonated with a low hum, vibrating underfoot and echoing within their chests. It became a chorus of whispers again, that terrible cacophony creeping back, clawing at their sanity. Shadowy forms lurked at the edges of their vision, flickering like candle flames caught in an unrelenting wind. "Make it stop. Why can't they just leave us alone?" Jake yelled, gripping Lisa's arms, panic swelling in his voice. "Maybe we have to confront them," she said, grasping for some semblance of order. "Maybe it all leads back to why we came here in the first place." A sudden shock of memory jolted through Lisa's mind, moments from their past, buried whispers, decisions that haunted. The very essence of their lives twisted around them like writhing serpents, each one dripping with a heavy dread. Then, as if reading her thoughts, the shadows coiled tighter, faces merging into grotesque shapes, mocking their every breath. "You can't deny your past," they shouted, their voices layering over each other, crafting a nightmarish symphony of torment. "You are all we have. You are a part of this. Get away," Lisa screamed, shoving against the suffocating darkness. They needed to break free, to unravel this horrifying riddle. Without warning, a door on the far side of the room hissed open, revealing a blinding light that beckoned them forward. It flickered, pulsating with an almost electric life, filling the room with an eerie glow. "This way," Jim shouted, dragging both Lisa and Jake toward the light. Lisa hesitated, cold dread settling in her stomach. What lay beyond? Was the light a way out or merely another trap? As they crossed the threshold, the walls trembled, and the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. Recognizable faces rushed forward again, their features transforming into terrifying visages, pleading yet accusing, urging them to remember, to own their choices. But just as they stepped into that radiant glow, the world around them dissolved like sugar in water. Everything blurred, merging into a white haze. For a moment, Lisa felt weightless, suspended between two realms. And then, just as abruptly, the three of them landed hard on cold, unforgiving asphalt, a world that felt too real. They lay there, disoriented, gasping. The air was cooler now, heavy with moisture, and the distant echo of laughter drifted through the night, each peal tinged with malice. What was that? Jake gasped, rising unsteadily to his feet. But Lisa's gaze was fixated ahead. The street was lined with flickering streetlights, revealing silhouettes moving toward them. They were back where it had all started, their town, but different. The smiles of their neighbors twisted into grotesque frowns, the laughter merging into a sinister chorus, beckoning them closer. What is happening? Jim stammered, stepping back, fear written in the lines of his face. Lisa shook her head, a cold truth settling in her heart. I think we're not done facing them. Yet the shadows hung ominously over the stars above, and a cold wind whistled through the night. Whatever awaited them was worse than their past. Had they really escaped, or were they being led deeper into a nightmare they couldn't comprehend? As the first figure stepped into the light, a sinister smile creeping across its face, Lisa realized they had only just begun to uncover the horrors stitched into their fate. What dreaded truth had they unleashed upon themselves? The sickly sweet grip of nostalgia wrapped around Lisa as she looked at the familiar surroundings. Memories flooded back, but they felt twisted, distorted fragments of a life she once knew, now drenched in menace. The cool asphalt beneath them seemed to pulse, alive with a malevolent energy. Jake's eyes darted back and forth, absorbing the scene unfolding before them. This isn't right, he said, voice quivering. We're not back. This can't be home. From the shadows, a figure emerged, and the distant laughter grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of jeering taunts. It was Mrs. Thompson, the old lady from 3 houses down, but her once kind face was a grotesque mask, stitched with scars and incongruous smiles. Welcome back, dear children, she crooned, her voice dripping with sweetness, a sickening contrast to the ice that crept up Lisa's spine. We've missed you so much. What do you want? Jim shouted, anger cutting through the fear that restrained him. What is this place? Oh, sweet Jim, Mrs. Thompson replied, stepping closer, her smile stretching unnaturally wide. This is where you decide what you truly want. Are you ready? She spun around, her shawl billowing like dark wings in the night air, revealing fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures lurking behind her. Each laugh intensified, turning sinister and cruel, mocking their fragile sanity. It was like a tempest of guilt swirling around them, winding tighter with every breath. Faces of the townspeople emerged from the dark, each one twisted by rage, disappointment, betrayal. Lisa shivered, clutching Jake's hand tighter. No, no, this can't be real, she murmured. But something deep inside her warned otherwise. They had crossed a line. The image of those ghosts from the other place, the relentless whispers, they were here now, tangible and terrifying. Face the truth, echoed the shadows, their voices melding into something primal and haunting. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. A stillness fell over the street, chilling in its intensity. The townspeople collectively leaned closer, eyes glinting with an insidious hunger. Don't you see? Mrs. Thompson's voice was now low, almost intimate. You've escaped the darkness, but only to return to the light of your failures. You can't hide from what you've done. Not here. Terror gripped Lisa's heart as understanding clawed at her mind. The sins of their past, unspoken fears, unfulfilled dreams twisted beneath a surface they thought was buried. This was not just a confrontation with the past, it was a reckoning. Run! Jake shouted suddenly, breaking the spell. They turned as one, hearts racing, desperate for escape. But the figures surged forward, shifting like shadows under a torrential storm, each step making the ground beneath them quiver. Lisa's breath came in short bursts, terror overwhelming logic as she pulled Jim and Jake along. With every step, she could feel the weight of eyes upon them, hungry and relentless. As they ran, a voice echoed behind them, dripping with malice. "You cannot outrun yourselves." The streetlights flickered, illuminating the path ahead, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for them. Lisa's mind raced with thoughts of safety, of escape. What lay beyond their small town? Could they even leave? With adrenaline coursing through their veins, they barreled past the familiar houses, now unfamiliar in their haunting stare. And then, just as abruptly, the asphalt transformed into gravel, leading them toward what appeared to be the edge of town. Just as they reached the last streetlight, the figures halted behind them, an ominous wall of silent watchers. They absorbed the trio's desperation hungrily, their voices a dissonant whisper in unison. "You think you can escape reality?" Lisa skidded to a halt, her breath catching in her throat. An expanse spread out before them. A dark forest loomed, its trees gnarled and twisted, blotting out the sky. "Turn back," Jim gasped, staring at the impenetrable darkness ahead. "It's worse in there." We have to," Lisa cut him off, determination surging through the fear. "If we don't find a way out of this into the unknown, we'll be trapped forever." As she stepped forward, a howl echoed from the woods, a promise of unspeakable horrors lurking in the shadows. The figures behind them surged forward, the darkness pressing in both from the street and the looming trees ahead. They were out of options. It was now or never. But as Lisa and her friends took their first trembling steps into the black void, a whisper wafted through the air, chilling her to the bone, a question that twisted itself deep within. What if this darkness is just the beginning? What awaited them in the forest would either lead to freedom or plunge them into an entirely new nightmare. Time became a blur as they stepped into the forest, shadows enveloping them like an unwanted embrace. The air was thick, heavy with unspoken fears and memories of losses felt long ago. Lisa squeezed Jake's hand, his tremors matching the tempest swirling inside her. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely breaking through the oppressive silence that hung like a thick fog. Leaves crunched beneath their feet, each sound a reminder of the reality they were desperately trying to escape. Ahead, the trees loomed, ancient and twisted, their gnarled branches reaching out like the fingers of the damned. Lisa's heart raced as the memories poured and rushed, chaotic, overwhelming. Faces from her past flashed before her, faded reminders of what they had left behind. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest felt alive, breathing, watching, waiting. A low growl reverberated through the trees, sending a shiver down Lisa's spine. What was that? Jake's voice quivered as he glanced back, fear written all over his face. "Keep moving." "We can't stop now," Jim urged, his own resolve shaken but still strong. They pressed on, each step echoing in the depths of the enveloping darkness. But the sense of being hunted grew, pressing against them like a storm threatening to break. Suddenly, an uproar erupted behind them. Lisa turned, a wave of horror washing over her as shadows lunged at them from all directions. "Run," she shouted. No need to look back. She could feel the malevolence trailing behind. Creeping closer, they darted through the trees, branches slashing at them like wild animals, but determination propelled them. "There has to be a way out. We have to keep going," Jim shouted, the urgency in his voice pushing them harder. The forest seemed alive with whispers, chants rising and falling, an eerie chorus that flooded Lisa's mind with dread. "Jack! Clara! Help us!" yelled faceless figures, their cries spiraling into a firestorm of horror and regret. "You left us. You must face us." "No," Lisa screamed, gripping Jake tighter, willing the echoes to fade. She pushed through, using the voices as fuel rather than fear, but the weight of their words kept clawing at her soul. "Why did you come back?" The whispers became frantic, spiraling out of control. "Why do you think you can escape your choices?" Each syllable sent cold fingers wrapping around her heart, suffocating her resolve. But then she spotted a flicker of light through the tangled trees, glimmering like a beacon of hope in the relentless dark. "Look, over there." She pointed towards the light, urgency igniting new courage. They sprinted toward it, driven by a primal instinct to survive, guilt mingling with hope. Bursting into an open clearing, They found themselves engulfed in dazzling light, illuminating a peculiar sight. Towers of light pierced the night sky, radiating with warmth, pushing back the shadows. It was a juxtaposition to the harrowing darkness, a realm suspended between the light of hope and the dark of despair. Is this real? Jake's voice trembled, both awe and fear woven together. It has to be, Lisa replied, her heart pounding as warmth washed over her. This is where we confront it all. Every decision, every moment as they stepped closer to the heart of the light, familiar faces materialized, friends, loved ones, even those they thought lost forever. Help us remember. They beckoned. It's time to face the truth. The shadows still lingered at the edges, but the light felt empowering, easing the suffocating grip of fear. Lisa turned to her friends. It's not about running from the darkness anymore. It's about embracing the light. Each of us has a past, but we can't let it define us. We can change our fates. Together, Jake affirmed, the strength in his voice rekindling hope. They stood side by side as the light intensified, enveloping them in a cocoon of safety and awareness. The faceless hovering specters of their past drifted closer, yet hesitated, lingering at the edge of the light's warmth. Show us, Jim shouted, strength pulsating in his voice. We won't be prisoners of our past. We'll face the truth. The light surged, heralding an explosion of memories and truths, some painful, some joyous, flying into their consciousness. The air crackled with an electricity that transformed the hollowness inside, igniting an acceptance of their burdens. Each memory was momentary, fleeting but significant, granting them the grace to heal. Together, they faced the swirling shadows, voices rising in unison. We reclaim our futures. And with that, the shadows that once coiled relentlessly around them began to dissolve, fading from sight as if consumed by the very light they embraced. As dawn broke through the trees, colors bursting like fireworks, Lisa felt a weight lift. Beyond the tree-line lay their small town, alive again with warmth and brightness, a stark contrast to before. The laughter of neighbors replaced haunting whispers. They had faced their dark pasts, emerged reborn. Hand in hand, they walked towards home, knowing the real journey was just beginning. They would share the truth, balancing light and dark, forging a path of resilience. Victory and hope crowned them, each step echoing in the hearts of those who dared to confront the sinuous darkness, their home rebuilt within conviction and courage. And for every truth unearthed, a light shined brighter in the world. As they approached their beloved street, the shadows of who they had been falling away behind them, finally revealing the potential of who they were destined to become. Click the subscribe button immediately to witness the next chapter in our unfolding story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and wild theories about the ending. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our journey. You need to be part of this.